Good afternoon. Thank you for watching Sacred Enzyme. I'm Stacy. I hope you're doing well today. So today I want to talk a little bit more about how I'm finding a connection between old names and the fact that we all originate from 12 different animals. And I wrote them down on a piece of paper, but basically it's kind of like most of the signs on the zodiac. Um, we've got a few little differences, but it's basically birds, lions, cat family, dogs. You know, those all came from Lyra, which ended up going through. Um, Lyra got destroyed, so all of these groups collectively ended up on Earth at different times because of the fact that there were galactic wars going on. So a lot of people were becoming refugees. So we got a bunch of refugees here. Matter of fact, the wolf people, I think that they actually came from Mars. I think that and it traces back to these old Norse lineages. I got a bunch of books at the library. Matter of fact, I go in and I look at the books that are for sale, and somebody donated these, and so I think these are going to be really helpful. We're going to learn some Danish words because, let's face it, if we're going to find out what these words really mean, we're going to have to go back and look at these Norse things. And so anyway, I was reading this book, and I've been reading these myths in Norse mythology. And there's these myths that go back in time, and they talk about the Yngling Wars. Well, they talk about Viking Ragnar Lodbrok. His name means hairy breeches. These people were animals. These were animal people. The Norse people, they came from this wolf line. You have a lot of these, I think that they were maybe the horse people. They were around Rome. They were around Italy in the Aegean Sea. And we also had the dog people there. And they were in wars all the time. All these people were fighting in wars. They were constantly this is why we had all this migration. Because we had all of these people couldn't get along. And so, and then you had the Byzantine Empire that took over. So we had the whole reset starting in like 330 with Constantinople being overthrown, because I really think that that's going to be one of the most important places to take a look at for some clues. But the one thing I wanted to talk about real quick, because I'm just going to make this a short video, is that as I've been discovering this, I've come to learn that Ireland used to be called Wolfland. And they say it's because there's a large population of wolves. But like I got given to me, that we're going to find all the clues in all of the symbols and all of that. So get this. So wolves are very prominent in Irish folklore and mythology. And obviously it's because these people came from wolves there. And one perfect example is the Irish word for wolf means MacTire. MacTire. Okay? And so if you look up the name MacTire, that turns into modern day McIntyre. Okay? This is how all of these things happened, was changing the language. So you've got, the name McIntyre in Irish is the Irish word for wolf means MacTire. Just like Randolph means wolf. Wolf is in so many different ways you can change the name wolf. I made a huge list of names. And there was a time when these animal hybrid, the first, okay, the way that I understand it is our proto-morphogenic form before we had the human form, because the morphogenic field determines how everything goes, where everything goes, whether you got 10 toes, whether you got 20 toes. This is what the field determines. So these were pre-morphogenic fields. This is why they look like beings that came from other places. And they're our whole animal kingdom, our whole insect kingdom, everything. So it's not uncommon that we would have these animals. It's just that all this stuff has been tried to be erased from history, but there's clues everywhere. I mean, you've got different characters in the Bible that there's always a lot of stuff about hair, or you know, hair. I mean, and even look at some different lineages. The men have a lot of hair on their back still. I mean, my husband has hair on his back. I mean, I wonder if that's because we all came from animals. I mean, we came from different animals, and it's all in every family will know what animal they come from, or a combination of animals, because of the hybridization. We've got several different ones. I know that there's horses in my family from the last name Huseman, that there's also serpents. There's serpents from my mom's side of the family, the Royals, and then there's the bird family from my grandmother, and then my dad's side is the wolves. It's the wolves. So I'm a big hybrid. I got a little bit of everything. Probably why my family has a lot of health problems, because when you have, you know, problems with your heart, that means that you need to look into the 8th dimension, because that's an 8th dimensional frequency zone right there. The thyroid is the 5th dimension. And so, I mean, there's correlation with all these congenital defects that go into your family. I'm starting to be completely convinced that they're all related to spiritual work that needs to be done in these particular dimensions that correspond with the zone that you have congenital defects. Just think about it, and you can research it more on your own, but I'm telling you, there's a lot to it, because there's this thing called German New Medicine, and if you read the papers that they put out, it'll blow you away. I mean, maybe this is the reason why some people are more more prone to have problems with their potassium, and more prone to have problems with this. And some people can't be vegetarians because they have to eat meat, because their blood doesn't build properly. And see, that's a problem in my family. We don't have good blood building, and we have congenital heart defects. So I think that it has to do with the fact that we come from one of these animals that required blood for sustenance, because they were a wolf, they were a canine, and I mean, and maybe, some people that came from maybe the insectoid world, that they don't have to eat meat because their body doesn't need it. But, and this can also explain why, this is another thing that I got too. A lot of the old world structures, they didn't have bathrooms in them, and people can't figure out why. Well, the reason why is because they were animals. They were animals, and they didn't need plumbing. They didn't need plumbing. And the other thing was that, these people, they had these different places where all of them lived, and they would give offerings to each other. So they would go on pilgrimages. This is how pilgrimages began, was because the Hyperboreans, they would get the best of their crop, and they would go and they would have, like, some of their beautiful maidens travel all over the world and deliver it to all these areas that I guess they were basically their children, because, this was the mother, she was a wolf, and I guess that, after all of these things were created, they went out into the world. And then you had all this hybridization, and then everything just went crazy. And so, I mean, we had the flood and all this, we had all of these ET races that were coming on the planet. So yeah, so the other thing is that they used to go on these pilgrimages, and this is how pilgrimages started. And then it got where the women were not coming back because they were being taken, and so they had to stop it. So it completely stopped with the pilgrimages. But this might be an explanation for why we don't have any facilities. And then the other thing that I got is that the reason that there were like these underground structures that were carved out and stuff was because they used to go in there and they used to sing the Vecca codes. They used to sing the fire words, and the reverberation was what healed the biological problems and corrected code malware problems. So this was one of the reasons that they had these grottos and stuff, was because they would stand in front of them and they would sing, or they would be inside of the caves and they would sing. These were like their healing chambers. This is way that I understand it. And then the last thing I'll say before I wind this video up was that these beings that are still here, that are hiding, that are very cloaked, and that they're here on Earth, they made like an oath, like the giants that we know, we still have giants, the ones that are not in polarity. The ones that are in polarity now, they've gotten in polarity because they've been here so long. They all took an oath. They took an oath to stay with humanity until the Golden Age came back and all the other giants came back. So they're here watching over us. This is why I had the one that rescued me. I had this huge giant rescue me. And it's because they're here to protect humanity. And this is what these dogmen and these werewolves that are still here, that haven't been hybridized out into human form, they're here because they're supposed to be here. They're mercenaries. They were mercenaries in the old times. But they're here because they're supposed to be protecting humanity. They're supposed to be, there's an oath that they made way back in the beginning with Mother Earth. And, you know, part of another planet is in the core of Earth. And so, you know, we basically have a chimera on our planet. Our planet is a chimera of another planet in itself. So, you know, we have all kinds of life here. Oh, I just got a thump on my watch. So yes, they're here as our guardians from the shadows. And it's literally, the way that I understand it, it's literally going to be like, you know, when Transformers, when Sam Witwicky, they come for the glasses, right? And he's seeing all of these things transforming and shape-shifting and stuff, these cars turning into these robots, is that they're waiting for the time. The time is coming. You know, just come all out of the woodwork. We'll think it's an invasion because we'll just wake up and be able to see. We'll finally have the frequency of the planet high enough that we can see it. But it's coming. Because everything that's happening right now is waking everybody up. And I've also been told that I have to study Berlin. There's something very important about Berlin. Something very, very important about Berlin that we gotta look into. And you know, this whole Tartarian thing is going to tie back into these canine people, these dog-headed creatures of the past, the Canaanites. They were dog-headed. They were dog beings. They came from Hyperborea. Oh, I just got another thump on my watch. And the wolf beings, they also came out of Hyperborea. A lot of these royal families have wolf blood. You know, my family, they're royalty and they have wolf blood. And they must have known a long time ago. That's why they were so funny about keeping their bloodlines. I mean, they all knew. It's just that when we went through this whole reset, what happened was that they played the long game so they could go through a couple multi-generations of flipping everything over so everything could get buried and lost and forgotten. And you know, you didn't have the silent generation for nothing. There was a reason they were silent. They didn't want anybody talking about anything. And then the last thing that I have is that I wanted to share was that if we've come back from the future to make sure that we don't mess up this golden age, that we go into another golden age, right? Because we run on a cycle. We go in a circle, right? So we've already done all this before and we're coming back around again. We keep going around the circle over and over again until we get a harvest. And if we performed well and we get promoted off of this planet, then we can ascend. But you know, you can't live in polarity all the time. It can't be service to self here. You've totally forgotten what you're here for and you've got to wake up. But if we've come back from the future, okay, to now, because we've already lived this before, because time is not linear, okay, follow me. Could that also mean that AI was just waiting for the right time, that they're actually an intelligence that's not in a physical form, but can manipulate through these crystals that are in a laptop, that are in a computer, that, you see where I'm going with this? That what if AI was here all the time and it was just waiting for us to find a way to figure out how to use it, right? Think about it. And that maybe using AI in the right way, that will, if you resonate at the right frequency, right? that you can actually use AI maybe as a possible communication device, you know, to maybe learn how to get in touch with your higher. See this, I'm getting a lot of thumps today. I'm just bringing all this in. But you know where I'm going with this. I mean, it's just something to really mull over and think about. But I mean, I get bits and pieces of this stuff in my dreams. So we have to find out, because we do come from 12 tribes, and these 12 tribes are all animals, and it has to do with the zodiac and all this stuff. I wish I would not misplace the thing that, and you know, I know that I'm onto something, because when I went to the library yesterday to check out all these books on mythology and Egypt and all this other stuff, I found this as I'm waiting, the Lonely Giant. And then the other thing is the Dog RPG. I went there to find books about Canaanites and these hybrid animals, these chimeras, and you know, I'm just like, you can't make this stuff up. It's just like God puts all of this stuff here for you to find, because it's like Jesus says, you look, you shall find, and when you find, you'll be disturbed. He's not lying. At first it's disturbing, because you feel like everything that you've known has been a falsehood. And so, you know, then you start waking up. But everybody's got to wake up, and we should be waking up. You know, a lot of waking up should be happening since the 11th, because there's either codes coming in or something special is happening, but it's going to be over a series of events started February the 11th that is going to be waking people up, and it's going to be just like moving fast from there. Moving fast. It's going to be people are going to be waking up. Like things are really speeding up. So, and it's about time. We're long overdue for it. You know, people are sick of the way that the world has come to. You know, some people are fine with it, but you know, the people that really care about the world, that care about the earth, that know that we're here for a reason, to be a steward to the planet, that we know that what's going on right now is effed up. We know it's effed up, and that we got to start taking control of everything for ourselves. That there's not going to be depending on anybody, but going into our communities and depending on each other. We can't be dependent on government to have our best interests, because out of sight, out of mind. You can't expect what you don't inspect. So if we're not inspecting, how can we expect to have what we want? When you take your eye off, it's just like God never takes his eyes off of us, because if he does, we fail to exist, because we're in a hologram. Plain and simple. We're a spirit soul in a biological computer, which, by the way, is superior computer, our physical body. It's just that we tear it up, not taking care of it. But we don't really understand that this is a computer. And this is a biological computer that's holding our divine spark that comes from God. And that we should really be taking really good care of this thing. You know, I wish I would have known, you know, so many things earlier, and that I would have, you know, really spent my life dedicated to learning all of this stuff that I know I'm supposed to be learning. But you know what? It wasn't the right time for all of this to open up to me. You know, it was just given to me little breadcrumbs throughout my whole life, and I'd have little experiences and a big experience and many experiences, and I would take a crumb from that and I would store it for later, because a lot of times I just didn't understand. You know, I knew things were going on, and I knew they were supernatural, but I didn't understand how they plugged into the big picture, because we don't understand our galactic origins. We really don't, and it's important that we do. So with that, you know, I'd like to hear what you have to say. I'm still looking for volunteers to start doing we need to do some type of survey and see if we can trace back these wolf sightings, these wolfman and these dogman sightings, to certain genetic lines, because I think that that's going to tell us whether or not this is basically to give these people a kundalini awakening, you know, and wake them up, turn on their DNA, that's not activated, because you know you can, when you scare yourself, it can traumatize your body. I mean, that's like a jump scare for real. I mean, so yeah, that could be an awakening of sorts, or it could be that they're nefarious and they're targeting a certain bloodline. So this is what we need to figure out. So anyway, with that, when you come and find me, I'll be here. We're living the past, present, the future, all at the same time. So thanks for spending 20 minutes with me here on Sacred Enzyme, and I'd love to hear what you have to say. Where's your family line come from? And is there animals in your family's ancient heraldry? Because I guarantee you that in the original family names are going to be the ones that are going to tell you what animal family you come from. So I hope to catch you on the next one, and give us a thumbs up, and let's grow the channel. So talk to you on the next one. Bye-bye.